I was born in Walthamstow in the East End of London, and I was baptised a Catholic, but I was never brought up in any religion. At the age of 10 I came home a normal night, and my parents told me that I had to choose who I wanted to live with because they were getting divorced. And I suspect because I loved my parents so much, and I always thought they'd be there for me, I made an unconscious decision inside that I wasn't their love anymore, because I really thought if you don't love, you don't get hurt. My mum ended up having a nervous breakdown and went to psychiatric hospital, and my dad remarried. And my stepmum thought the best way of bringing up a kid was beating them senseless each day, so that was my upbringing. At the age of about 13 I started stealing. I suspect I wanted someone to say that they loved me, but because my dad was a policeman, it just added to the beatings. At 15, I was put in detention centre, which is like a youth prison. At 19, I left home at 15. At 19, I was in prison again, came out of there very angry and very bitter, and thought what you want out of this world you have to take, because no one gives you anything. And I started bouncing around the East End and West End clubs of London, met some guys who seemed to have everything. They had the sports cars, the best girls. You know, they walked into a club and everyone stopped. And I suspect I wanted that power, I wanted that money, I wanted that, what would you call it, that incredible, what it seemed to me to have everything. And I thought that would satisfy me, that would fulfill me. So I started working for these people, but before very long I wasn't working for them, I was working with them. And these were the people who ran most of the organised crime in London. So to my shame, I was involved in major drug deals, protection rackets, vicious crime of all sorts. Like I wouldn't leave my house without a gun. And, I was involved in some of the worst firms in London, organised criminals. At 27, I had everything the world says makes you happy. I had the penthouse flat, the sports cars, more money than I could ever spend. But obviously inside there was a great emptiness because everything was based on taking, not giving. I was working a club that we part-owned in the West End of London, ended up hitting this guy and truly thought I had killed him. And I suspect the thing that triggered in me was that I didn't care. And I thought, how can I have such a life where all I'm doing is hurting people? And now I've got to the point where I don't even care. And I looked at, I had all the money, I had all the power, I had lots of girls, but yet I was unsatisfied inside. I came in this normal night and I became aware of a voice speaking to me in my heart, and I knew that voice to be God. I ended up meeting a priest who told me about a retreat that was happening. I ended up going on this retreat, and at that retreat I did something which I never thought I'd do. I went to confession for the first time in my life, and it was almost like being born again. I went to confession and I didn't realise how the sin that I had committed was killing me inside. And when I went to confession, it was like I was rejuvenated, I was made whole again. God took that sin and gave me life. And then I had a miracle with the Eucharist, where I really knew that that was Jesus, our humble God who comes in the form of bread so that we might draw life from him. I ended up leaving that retreat and working with people like Mother Teresa, who taught me so much about how to love and how to give, and that it's in giving that we receive, not in taking. So in the last 15 years, I would have spoken to about 3 million people around the world, really sharing my story, trying to help them know that there's a God who loves them, a God who died for them, and a God who cherishes them, and that there's better ways of living than I lived. And when we give, it's then that we're made happy and fulfilled. I have been involved in a community for the last few years, which I set up, which is a community of evangelisation. And so we live together, pray together and work together, but I spend a lot of time travelling. But I've never been so happy, I've never been so fulfilled, and I've never been so at peace. So I think God is very gracious.